This little dude bursts out screaming, "I'm a wizard!" while clutching a stick. And honestly, the confidence is immaculate even if the credentials are not. Then the kid goes, "Eat my magic, you monster!" and the sound effect alone is doing more work than any spell. The monster claps back with, "I'm a monster, I eat wizards," and these two kids are absolutely beefing in the most unhinged roleplay session of all time. Our boy grips his little wooden stick and swings. Bro really said, "This is my moment, this is my weapon, this is my destiny." The blonde kid takes a bonk to the face and screams, "Ouch!" So much for eating wizards, turns out a stick hits different. The blonde is furious. "How can you hit me for real?" The boy nonchalantly says, "Monsters are supposed to lose to wizards. This kid just made up the rules." Deckard Cain-looking old guy watches from behind as the girl howls that she wants to be a wizard too, only to get shot down with a flat, merciless no. The power gap is already established. The crusty old man is Grandpa Rabbus. He rolls up looking distinguished as hell, casually flexing, "You sure are energetic in the morning, little ones." Our boy immediately pivots to important business. "What do I need to do to become a wizard, Grandpa Rabbus?" Absolutely no chill, straight to the old man hits them with the hard truth. You can't become one just because you want to, and then explains that wizards are the apex of humanity. Bro really just crushed a child's dream with a lore dump. Rabbus continues, "Wizards are nobles and knights who inherited the ability, it's gatekept by bloodline," and then drops the bomb. "Unfortunately, you two can't become wizards." This guy steps in and goes, "Elder, how could you say something like that to children?" Finally, someone with emotional intelligence in this fantasy world. Old man Rabbus is absolutely unbothered by the criticism, looking at the guy like, "Well, that's that, is it true?" This elder has zero apologies to give and the energy is a little iconic. The guy steps forward and drops the news. "I heard a monster appeared." And suddenly the morning playdate just got a whole lot more serious. The old man's face goes grim, and he confirms with just 2 words. "It's true." 2 words. Max drama. Instant tension. Rabbus describes the monster as house-sized and shadow-cloaked from head to claw, then immediately adds, "But don't worry," which is exactly what someone says right before everything gets worse. A woman is consoling the crying blonde girl, while Rabbus confirms the village chief already left for the city to request a wizard. Someone called for backup. This dude reassures everyone that the village chief will definitely bring a wizard back. The blonde girl gets a direct close-up order burned into her. The forest is completely off limits until further notice, and her expression makes it clear she does not like being told what to do. Rabbus warns everyone to stay cautious, then adds the cold, hard truth. Without a wizard, killing that monster is practically impossible. The older teen asks, "Do all the villagers know about the monster situation?" The old man confirms, "Of course, they all know." He is then asked, "What about him?" And Rabbus narrows his eyes and grips his staff, asking flatly who. The name about to be dropped clearly carries some weight. They're talking about the shepherd on Hisaril Hill. A gentle breeze drifted through the quiet village street, timber-framed houses standing peaceful against the backdrop of rolling green hills and distant mountains. A peaceful, beautiful world that has absolutely no idea what's coming. Basically the Manhwa saying, "Enjoy this beauty because things are about to go sideways." A fluffy white rabbit basks contentedly in the grass, which leads to our introduction to our protagonist for the very first time. His name is Turan, and he is the shepherd. And there he is, Turan, laid out flat in a grassy field, completely buried under a pile of snoozing sheep and a sheepdog, absolutely living his best life. A close-up reveals Turan's face, older now, blue-haired, world-weary eyes staring at the sky. This is the same boy from the opening, years later, and that spark hasn't gone anywhere. Turan throws his arms out dramatically and declares this life unbearably boring to no one in particular, surrounded only by sheep who do not care even a little bit. The same fields, the same sheep, the same lonely hilltop, the same day, over and over, and you can feel the weight of years of stagnation pressing down on him. His solitary sheepfold sits on the hill like a forgotten outpost as Turan mutters that at this rate he's going to forget how to use human language. A man so isolated he's worried he's becoming more sheep than person. Turan lies there buried under his own flock, staring blankly at the sky. A grown man wearing his life like a cloak he never chose and can't take off. A cold, dismissive voice cuts through the stillness with 2 words, "Pathetic brat," and the close-up of icy silver eyes makes it clear this visitor is not here to be nice. Old man Rabbus himself has walked all the way up the hill to lecture Turan, going, "You're already slacking off." Turan is literally lying on a sheep, the audacity to ask if he's slacking. Turan, deeply unbothered, points out that Rebus is blocking his sunlight and tells him to move. Then Rebus gets ready to fire back with something that clearly stings. Rebus calls Turan out directly. He's still carrying a grudge from some unnamed incident in the past, and Turan, eyes half closed, face like a man who has heard this before, asks what he means. Turan asks if Rebus is still holding a grudge about that incident from back then, while looking absolutely 0% sorry. He has the energy of someone who's already checked out of this conversation. Turan casually brings up the incident. Ah, you mean when my mother died, and you tried to quietly turn the sheep into shared property? Excuse me, what? The lore is nasty. The crusty old man is getting cold out. Turan straight up tells Rebus, we're not close enough to be asking how we're doing, so if you came here, say what you want and get lost. 10 out of 10 boundary setting, no notes. Rebus snaps, you little brat! That's the energy of a man caught red-handed. Turan immediately fires back with, what? The two of them are the most hostile duo and we are entertained. Rebus warns that a monster has been spotted. He adds that it's a leopard as big as a house. The adorable sheep is nuzzling Turan's hand while the older guy explains, Rop found the monster and everyone's been told. Turan processes this information with zero fear or concern. Turan grins while petting the sheep and goes, that's a serious problem. Rebus replies with, you're not scared, even though you're the most likely target around here? He's clocking that he's bait and smiling about it, unhinged. I don't know what kind of guts you've got, says Rebus, staring at Turan, who is somehow more interested in monsters than scared. The old man is genuinely baffled by this man's energy. The elder reminds him, the village chief went to request a wizard, so be careful, and adds that he came because he was worried about him. Yeah, we highly doubt that. Turan, not quite meeting Rebus's eyes, tells him he's not very honest. Turan asks point blank why Rebus can't just admit he came because he was worried about the sheep, not him. Turan looks Rebus dead in the eye and says with the most unbothered face, old man, if you're done talking, get lost already. The disrespect is immaculate, the delivery is chef's kiss. Turan then hits him with, your breath stinks so bad my nose is going to rot. Bro, this man attacked the elder's hygiene, he has no fear, no restraint, no survivors. Rebus storms off while Turan just stands there grinning into the distance looking, he won that argument and his sheep witnessed it. Turan couldn't stop thinking of this monster. Not with fear, but with cold, calculating focus. Monsters are beasts that wield mysterious power and magic, the beast world's answer to wizards, a direct mirror of the power system we've already been shown. If humans have wizards ruling from the top, then beasts have monsters. And Turan's mind immediately pivots to the fact that a wizard is being dragged to this backwater village because of one. Turan's feet clenches tight in the grass as the thought strikes him. This monster situation means he'll finally get to see a real wizard in person for the very first time in his life. Turan stands alone in the center of his flock, looking very small against the vastness of the hill, but his thoughts reveal a flicker of cold realism. The wizard dispatched to a rural village call probably won't be anything impressive. But still, he wants to see one, and just how strong are they? He wondered. Suddenly Turan stops, something catches his attention and he looks alarmed for the first time. This smell! Turan's nose is picking something up while he stands in the forest path. The smell hits harder. Close up. It's blood. Well, that escalated immediately. Turan's footsteps crunch on the forest path. The beauty of this panel is doing heavy lifting to prepare us for whatever horror is about to come. Turan's bandaged feet step carefully on the dirt path into the darkening forest. Someone is walking toward danger in sandals, and we respect the lack of proper footwear. Turan stands inside the golden-lit forest looking around. He is sure it was this way. Sir has tracked blood by smell and is now navigating by vibes. Then he stops. Something big is just ahead in the shadows. A bandaged foot stepped forward on the dusty ground, carrying a quiet determination with every movement. He stops dead. Turan staring down at something, face going slack with what is clearly genuine shock. Turan looks on the ground, blood splattered everywhere with a body. One word, Rebus, and the gut punch lands perfectly. Turan stands over Rebus's broken body with an enormous shadow looming behind him on the ground. Something massive is already right there, and Turan's inner voice goes cold. He told me to be careful, yet he's the one who goes in first. Turan's face goes from shocked to calculating as he thinks. So the source of the blood smell was Rebus. The elder walked directly into the monster's path after lecturing Turan. The conclusion arrives cold and certain. Only a monster could have done this to Rebus. Turan registers that the damage is far beyond anything a normal wild animal could ever inflict. a single enormous claw drops into view, glowing with eerie amber light. The monster is right there, and it is not small. The creature's full silhouette looms in the golden dust-filled forest air, an armored, ancient-looking leopard monster radiating power, absolutely menacing. Turan glances over his shoulder at the monster who's locked eyes on him. Turan stands facing the monster directly, a tiny human versus something house-sized, and he doesn't run, he just stands there, which is terrifying and cool. Beat of silence, then Turan's inner thought finally arrives. How strong is a monster? This man who claims to be bored is literally field testing his curiosity right now. A flash to young Turan at a dinner table, asking his older companion whether it was true that even grown adults couldn't defeat one. And the answer is immediate and blunt. They are insanely strong. The older guy at the village explains, they're insanely strong. If ordinary adults like me rush it, you won't even be able to collect my bones. Dramatic, accurate, also a little over the top for dinner time. The kid absorbs the information with wide eyes while pancakes get set on the table. Warm, domestic, totally at odds with the horror in the woods. Don't worry, the village chief will bring a wizard, goes the older guy. He then confirms, the wizard will subjugate the monster. These village people have full faith in a system that is currently not present. The kid asks with big hopeful eyes, the wizard won't lose, right? The older guy smiles and explains that wizards are great beings born with the power of magic. They'll kill the monster with a single word. Back in the present time, the monster is now charging at Turan. Turan faces the monster with zero interest. This guy has really been bored out of his mind. Not even this excite him. One word, the biggest word, bold, horrifying, perfect lettering. Die. Turan says this to the monster like he's ordering at a cafe. The monster lunges and something slashes. And the forest floor cracks as whatever Turan just did hits the monster before it reaches him. The monster skids back, glowing eyes and armored hide catching light. It tries to comprehend what just happened because something hit it and nothing should be able to hit it. And Turan is still standing, illuminated by the crimson glow of the forest behind him, scarf trailing in the aftermath wind, completely and utterly unharmed. Turan strokes his chin and thinks, not working. The monster isn't dead from one hit, and he's doing the rational math like a man who routinely solves difficult problems alone. The monster charges and Turan meets it, an explosion of force and light as the two collide in a full act-to-toe. Turan gets launched backward and yells, stop! Wait, is he giving the monster a command? The massive beast swipes a crackling energy claw at Turan, who remains a tiny figure in the distance. A breathtaking scale shot, showing just how outmatched any normal person would be. Turan thinks grimly, I knew killing it wouldn't work. Wait, he knew he couldn't kill it? This was him testing. This was a strategy. The monster and Turan collide in a blinding burst of golden lightning energy, fur against flesh, power against something the beast does not understand yet. The monster's grotesque face fills the frame, stone armor cracked, eyes blazing, a creature of pure bestial fury staring at the one human who won't break. Turan ducks and rolls away from the beast mid-lunge, moving with practiced precision while the monster crashes past. The monster stumbles, sparks flying from its hide, and Turan lands, brushes it off, and thinks, in that case. He just formulated Plan B in real time. Turan's fist tightens on something and he says, a shepherd should do, and his whole energy shifts from testing to committed. His hand moves, a blur of motion, and something slashes outward toward the monster in a clean, deliberate arc. Whatever this technique is, it's precise. Turan closes in on the monster. The distance between them is nothing now, and finishes the sentence, what a shepherd does. Absolutely devastating delivery, instant iconic quote. The monster wheels to face Turan head-on, massive, armored, a living mountain of rage, and it charges straight at the man with the sling like the gap in power doesn't exist. One word, one command. Harden. And the close-up shows the projectile crystallizing mid-flight into something dense and unyielding, turned from Shepard's tool into a weapon that can actually hurt this thing. Turan unleashes the full release, his whole body torqued, golden eye blazing, the sling whipping around with impossible speed as he commits completely to the throw. Turan's eye, lit gold, sharp and focused, and his next command, become faster. The man is giving this rock commands like it's a system and it's working. The hardened projectile arcs through the air trailing light while the monster twists to evade, but Turan has already adjusted. This is not a lucky throw, this is a hunter who has done this 10,000 times. The shot connects, The projectile grazes or redirects the beast, sending it spinning. Turan's foot is already moving, already repositioning for what comes next. The blue energy ring from Turan's technique slices forward, the monster gets caught in it, and Turan's feet hit the ground running as the ring expands. Pierce through! He says it so calmly, the energy so precise, aimed directly at the monster's core, and the blue light carves a path right toward it. The beast crashes at full impact, Turan's attack driving it down into the earth with devastating finality. The shot connects with explosive force, a burst of white and blue energy detonating against the beast. Turan's weapon has punched through even that armored hide. The monster's own blood spatters across. Dark chunks of armored flesh and crimson spray. The house-sized predator has been hurt. A final devastating shot hits the beast dead center, a blue lance of hardened, accelerated force detonating in the creature's core and blowing it back in a ring of fire and energy. Turan's with his eyes closed, the smallest satisfied smile on his face as he delivers the final line of the fight. I'm aiming. The monster is down, cracked hide, golden energy sputtering, barely standing, and Turan faces it from across the clearing looking completely calm, blood on him, sandals still on. Turan's face close up, eyes closed in concentration, and then that dangerous smile again. I'm aiming. Turan and the beast together in the dust, and an enormous boulder is flying through the air above them. Wait, what? Where did the boulder come from? For the head. The boulder drops toward the monster's skull, while Turan's blue ring energy simultaneously closes in. He's using environmental hazards and his technique at the same time, like a madman genius. The boulder hits, the energy hits, the monster's head takes both impacts simultaneously. Blood and golden light everywhere, absolute devastation. The settling dust, the amber leaves, and Turan's silver hair from behind. The fight is done, the forest is quiet, and somehow this shepherd is still in one piece. Turan stands over the barely alive, completely wrecked monster and says, casually, like a person, "This is my first time using it on a monster." Bro was improvising the whole time. The monster's massive clawed hand twitches on the ground next to tiny Turan's feet. Scale comparison doing all the heavy lifting to remind us this man just fought something enormous with a method he'd never tested. The shattered monster is covered in its own blood, teeth visible, golden energy completely extinguished, and Turan looks at it thinking, should I toss it into some valley or something? The afterthought energy is sending me. Turan grips the hilt of whatever technique he used, stares out at the destruction he caused, and murmurs, "Those village bastards sure put me to work." 0 thanks expected, 0 given to himself. His inner voice bites with cold contempt. Rabas put himself through all that just for the sake of the townsfolk. A bloodied Turan declares with complete certainty that he is a wizard. Then, out of nowhere, a memory surfaces. 8 years ago, a 10-year-old Turan discovered he had special abilities, shown by a glowing wooden log hovering impossibly in the air. He was just 10 years old when the power first awakened. Young Turan sits cross-legged on the floor, arms raised, surrounded by levitating objects glowing with blue energy like he is conducting a symphony of flying junk. A younger, wide-eyed Turan turns around, grinning with disbelief and pure joy, breathlessly announcing that the logs are actually flying. His mother walks in, senses the chaos of floating objects immediately, and Turan cries out to her, calling for the one person who matters most. He proudly demonstrates his 2 elemental abilities to his mother. He can make fire and wind, as multiple objects levitate and crackle with light around him. A shattering cry erupts as his mother screams at him to stop. His mother's face is twisted in a terror Turan has never seen before. This was the first and last time she ever got truly angry at him. She catches a log mid-air with her bare hand, calls his name quietly and tells him to come sit with her, her voice now low and serious. She kneels down to his level, places a gentle hand on his collar, and looks him dead in the eyes, the scattered objects still rolling on the floor around them. She asks him softly if he wants to stay with her for a long, long time, and young Turan, cheeks flushed, quietly answers yes. With all the floating items now on the floor between them, she makes her demand, for Turan to promise her that he will never use this power again. His mother's face is gentle, but her words are iron. She commands him to never use this power in front of another living soul. Young Turan, staring up at his mom, asks the one question every 10-year-old with forbidden power would ask: why? His mother asks him first if he remembers the old story about the noble and the knight, and Turan answers quietly that, yes, he remembers. She lays out the world's hidden truth. Nobles and knights are both called wizards, but they are fundamentally not the same thing. Nobles are revealed to be the sacred descendants of the divine Freyans, beings who descended from above to save the old humans, rendered in stunning golden angelic imagery. But knights are something else entirely, the blood-diluted offspring of those nobles who mixed with regular humans, less pure, less powerful, treated as lesser. Holding her shepherd's crook, yes, you remember, his mom confirms, and then states that Turan needs to burn this into his mind. She explains with her back turned and voice tight. The split between nobles and knights exists even within the wizard class itself, enforced by the nobles who sit above everyone. Then his mother delivers the bombshell. She is going to tell him exactly why he must never use this power. The truth crashes down like a hammer blow. Turan inherited his abilities from his father, and his father was a knight. She warns him that beyond this quiet town, there are cruel nobles who treat knights as nothing more than tools and slaves. His mom warns that nobody can ever, under any circumstances, find out that he is a wizard. His mother, trembling slightly, asks if he can truly promise her that, and the expression on her face makes it clear this is the most important thing she has ever asked of him. 8 years have passed since that day. Turan stands alone in the quiet of his childhood home, staring out the window, and states plainly that he has kept the promise with his mother every single day since then. A close-up of his hand reaching toward the window latch as he confirms with absolute conviction, the promise will not be broken. Turan has no desire to reveal himself as a wizard, or to descend from his isolated mountain. The promise is the wall between him and the world below. A thunderous banging jolts Turan's eye wide open mid-thought, snapping the entire flashback away in an instant. The door is being beaten on by fists as someone screams for Turan to come out right now. He has already been found. Turan steps towards the door, expression unreadable, already composing himself before he even sees who is there. A group of hostile-looking villagers has assembled, the atmosphere crackling with accusation. This is clearly not a friendly gathering. In the face of a mob accusing him of murder, Turan leans his head back and yawns. The most devastating power move in the chapter. The accusation is spelled out to his face. He killed Rabus, and behind the accuser, a whole row of armed villagers stand united in their suspicion. Turan looks them dead in the eye and confirms it with one flat, chilling word: yes. The mob erupts. They scream that he attacked Rabus and deliberately left the old man to be devoured by the monster. The accuser lunges forward with a face full of rage, veins bulging, fist cocked back at full force. Turan says nothing, just watches silently with a clenched hand at his side, reading the situation completely. He turns to the crowd calmly and lays out the actual motive. The oldest man in the village died alone, while all the young men were too scared to face the monster themselves. He can see exactly why they would want to pin this on him. It is the easiest guilt to carry when it is someone else's. Grabbed by the collar and lifted off the ground, Turan stares up at his attacker and calmly explains what is really happening. They want to shift their own shame onto him. The big man screams Turan's name at full volume and winds up a devastating punch, and Turan does not even flinch. The punch is magically dodged. And somewhere behind the violence, the real question is forming. How long can this man keep pretending he cannot fight back? Of course he used magic to dodge the punch. In return, Turan head butts the big guy, knocking him to the ground. The whole mob piles on with weapons and fists, as Turan moves towards them while thinking if he wishes for something, it can happen at the cost of mana. Turan smirks with the smuggest expression imaginable, and his inner monologue simply commands one of the guys to fall over. One of the guy falls on his face as Turan calmly states he does not need to start a fire. A blast of invisible wind launches his attacker forward with sudden whiplash-fast force, while Turan looks like he barely moved. He catches a swinging stick with both hands, a tiny flash of wind visible at the contact point, just a little bit, so that it is not obvious. He turns the staff back on the big man with a cracking blow that staggers him, looking completely ordinary while being anything but. The strategy crystallizes in his inner voice: use just enough wind to dominate them, but never enough that anyone suspects a thing. Turan spins through the entire mob, disarming and deflecting with impossible efficiency while appearing to fight with pure physical skill. The whole group lunges at him at once in a blur of fists and weapons, and Turan moves through it all like water, redirecting every strike with invisible precision. Their weapons go clattering into the open sky as Turan strips them bare with a single sweeping wind blast, and then everyone slams into the ground. The men lie on the grass among the scattered, defeated, and just like that for 8 years, through every beating and every challenge, he has hidden the fact that he is a wizard. Turan stands alone in the center of a field of fallen villagers, completely unbothered, having just beaten them all using only his pinky's worth of power. Turan looks down at his defeated attackers with quiet eyes and tells them that strength should have gone toward Rebus's funeral. Several women approach, one of them smiling, hands raised peacefully, and Turan asks directly if they have also come looking for a fight. The women quickly clarify they absolutely did not come to fight. They came specifically to see Turan, and his only response is a single, deeply unimpressed ellipsis, and he tells them to take those idiots with them. Turan goes back inside his home. His sandaled feet cross the floor of a room scattered with books and a glass, suggesting a quiet life of controlled solitude that is about to get very complicated. Alone now, Turan twirls his hair between his fingers and thinks clearly. The town is going to erupt into chaos again, and those villagers will absolutely use this incident to extort him at the next trade. He places his jacket on the chair and decides, well, fine. If they are going to cheat him, he will just keep beating them up until they agree to a fair deal. He is mid-thought, satisfied with his own logic, when a thunderous banging erupts at his door and cuts him off mid-sentence. Apparently, the chaos is starting immediately. More banging, louder, faster, relentless, as Turan sits back and stares at the door with the expression of a man watching a fire he predicted, and mutters that whoever keeps knocking at his door must simply be out of their mind. A gloved fist hammers the door one more time as Turan shouts, asking who the heck is there. He yanks the door open to find a powerfully built stranger in dark armor standing right in front of him, and Turan, still half annoyed, starts to ask if they really want to do this. Turan faces the imposing armored stranger in the open doorway against a bright blue sky. This is clearly not another villager. The stranger politely announces he was hoping to ask a favor during his travels, but admits he may have caught Turan at a bad moment, and Turan responds with nothing but silence. Turan processes the word traveler with every alarm in his body quietly firing behind a completely blank face. Turan apologizes to the stranger and explains that some uninvited guests just arrived moments ago. Turan's inner voice immediately betrays him. His mother taught him manners, but he has never once used them on anyone in this pathetic town, and the effort feels deeply uncomfortable. He registers the detail that should change everything. A traveler, armed with a sword. Turan offers to point the stranger toward an inn, and the stranger just smiles back with the quiet patience of someone who is not actually looking for an inn. Turan exhales slowly, a faint smirk pulling at the corner of his mouth, because whatever this is, he has already decided how to handle it. Turan says two words that settle the moment, come in. A full spread of bread, soup, sausage, cheese, and fruit covers the table, more food than expected in a home this quiet. Turan sets the food down and immediately tells the stranger they are not well off and do not have much, and the stranger is already looking at a feast. The stranger asks if Turan has never met someone from outside the town before, and Turan answers simply, that's right. Turan confirms he was born and raised on this hill and has lived as a shepherd his entire life, and the stranger's expression shifts with genuine interest. Turan notes it is also rare for this small town to get visitors at all, and the stranger's eye narrows with quiet calculation. Turan drinks deeply from his cup, eyes closed, completely unbothered, while the stranger watches him and murmurs one word, interesting. Turan looks up with a quiet, huh, because the stranger has just remarked that for a shepherd who grew up out here, Turan is quite well versed in manners. The stranger finishes the thought, your parents must have taught you well, as Turan and the stranger sit across a round table full of food, the warmth of the room doing nothing to soften the tension underneath. Turan says he learned everything from his mother who died a few years ago from an illness. The stranger looks away and says warmly that a woman who raised a proud son like Turan must surely be living among the gods in a palace in the heavens. The stranger extends a quiet thank you across the table, and Turan stands with his back turned, already done with the sentiment. Turan dismisses the compliment entirely. He just lives the way his mother taught him. Turan asks what brings the stranger all the way to this country town, and the stranger grins and says he was asked a favor. The stranger reveals the favor. Someone needed a monster puma handled, and Turan's back is turned as the words land. Turan thought to himself that he is a wizard. Turan tells the stranger that he must be the wizard the village elder spoke about, and from the shadows, the stranger answers, that is right. The stranger asks if he can put a question forward, and Turan says sure. The stranger confirms he can sense a monster somewhere in this area, but does not see one. The stranger presses harder and says Turan seems completely calm and is not running away, which makes no sense if a monster is nearby and humans are its natural target. He leans in and asks Turan why he isn't scared because if the monster went for a human, Turan would be the target. The stranger says, Turan seems awfully brave for a shepherd who has never once left this town. The stranger then asks, who are you? The scene shifts the young Turan sitting at a table asking his mother why no one can ever know that he is a wizard. His mother tells him because of the bad nobles. She continues saying, if nobles are shepherds like them, then knights are simply the dogs those nobles keep. Those nobles might treat a knight with love, but they can sell you off or sacrifice you if necessary. She tells young Turan she does not want that kind of life for him, then asks directly if he wants to keep living with his mom, and he answers instantly, yes. She tells him to remember this. And young Turan looks up with wide, serious eyes, burning every word into memory. She delivers the absolute law of his life. Nobody can know that he is a wizard, especially other wizards, who would separate them and turn him into their shepherd dog to be discarded at any moment. The final words of the memory fade out, at any moment, and Turan stands in the kitchen light, the stranger's presence behind him, his mother's voice still ringing. The stranger's sword glints in the firelight as the memory closes with the one truth Turan has organized his entire. Turan's inner voice cuts through the silence with ice-cold clarity. The only way to keep his secret locked tight is to make sure nobody walks away with the truth. The stranger sits in the warm glow of Turan's tavern, mug in hand, and Turan stands in the background like a shadow. This is not a social call. Turan thought if things go sideways, he will not hesitate to put his opponent in the ground. So, this is what it has come to. As Turan is deep in his thought, Kiorn's question crashes in. Why can't you answer? The stranger erupts into an enormous, unguarded grin and admits that pulling such a face on someone with a deadpan expression just ruined his own joke. A long, silent beat. The entire scene holds its breath as Turan thought, this was a joke? Turan faces the stranger across a small table and flatly informs him that humor is simply not something he was built for. The stranger apologizes instead, saying he must have flustered him. Turan waves it off completely and reveals this was actually the first time he had ever heard a wizard make a joke, and it caught him entirely off guard. The stranger admits that Turan's reaction was just too entertaining to stop teasing and took it too far. The stranger extends an open hand across the table and notes almost casually that in all this time they still have not properly introduced themselves. The big man with the salt and pepper hair and the easy grin reveals his name. He is Kiorn, a wanderer, standing in Turan's doorway like he owns the morning. Turan apologizes for not leading with introductions, and the two shake hands. Turan introduces himself plainly, without ceremony. Just Turan, just a shepherd. Kiorn drops his age casually over a spread of food. He is turning 75 this year, and Turan counters that he is 18, the gap between them suddenly enormous and yet somehow irrelevant. Turan raises an eyebrow over the meal and says plainly that Kiorn does not look anything close to that old. Kiorn explains that wizards age slower than regular people and live far longer. And then Turan fires back with a question that cuts straight to the heart of Kiorn's story. Kiorn answers without drama. After 60 years serving the Arabian family, he simply walked away. Kiorn spreads his hand wide and grins like a man genuinely at peace. In his later years, he just wanted to wander from place to place with nowhere to call home. And Turan's deadpan response is that this sounds pretty romantic. Turan's face cracks into the widest, most genuine smile he has shown yet. This is what a harmless conversation looks like. Kiorn laughs so wide, thinking, spending time with a good person like this is something else entirely. The two of them across a candlelit table in the dark, the room small and warm around them, and Kiorn's inner voice trails off in quiet wonder. He had no idea something like this could feel this enjoyable. The window behind them brightens, and Kiorn mutters that somehow the whole night slipped away. It is already morning. Kiorn straightens up and announces he should get moving, the sunrise painting the room behind him, while Turan sits at the table still glowing faintly with something that looks like calm. Kiorn's fingers press a small, heavy coin flat against the table, and he identifies it with quiet weight. This is Arabian silver. He explains that Arabian silver is the purest silver coin in circulation, more than enough to cover the meal. Turan accepts it with a simple, earnest wish for a smooth hunt. Turan stands at the doorway watching Kiorn go. He tells the old wanderer not to act as though they will never see each other again. Kiorn glances back over a broad armored shoulder with a grin, and says he may well show up a few more times to mooch off Turan on his way through, as if it were already decided. The sky outside explodes into a brilliant, cloudless morning blue, the first real breath of open air after an entire night inside. The sheep are already out grazing under a pale blue sky, bleating gently, completely indifferent to everything that just happened inside. Turan issues a single clean command to his flock with total authority: gather. The flock of sheep snaps their heads up immediately. Turan stands at the center of his entire flock, shepherd's staff in hand, sheep arranged around him in a full circle, the image of a man completely in his element. Turan's inner voice erupts with the force of a revelation. This is the very first time in his life he has ever met another wizard. The thought keeps unfolding, but more than that, he realizes with quiet shock just how long it has been since a conversation felt this effortless and alive. Turan continues to daydream as he sees Kjorn return and grinning with a dead wolf slung over his shoulder. And Turan's inner voice seals the verdict. He really was a good person. Turan's inner thought lands like a cold stone. He had always assumed knights were nothing more than emotionless hunting dogs, used as weapons by arrogant nobles. And this new idea shakes everything. He wrestles with the question out loud. But now that he actually likes Kjorn, how is he supposed to tell him that he's a wizard as well? Kjorn walks alone into Hisaril Hill's forest, and his inner voice delivers the piece of information that there are no more monsters left on the hill. He then stops with his back half turned, posture locked tight, eyes scanning the trees, and thought that's strange. There are traces of a battle here all right, but he cannot feel a single monster's presence anywhere. Kjorn, standing in front of a massive ancient tree, a glowing wound pulsing on its bark like an open eye. Something fought here, and recently. Was the monster already hunted? And if so, who in the world did it? He questions whether the village chief hired another wizard besides him to handle this. Kjorn closes his eyes and exhales, his face settling into something like relief. Either way, the monster is gone and the job is done. He reasons it out plainly to himself. If someone killed the monster and made the area safe, that is all that actually matters. And then the realization hits like a freight train, because Kjorn just figured out exactly who that someone was. Kjorn snaps his head around with terrifying speed, eyes sharp and locked. The laid-back wanderer is completely gone, and something much more alert has taken his place. A close-up of something dark and dormant in the shadows, a sinister creature's remaining body, eyes closed, mana still seeping. This monster is not fully finished. The beast's enormous armored claw appears. The full monster, a massive, grotesque creature, rotting flesh, coiling tentacles, exposed fangs dripping red, the Wraith of the Hisaril Hill monster in all its horrifying glory. A tiny Kjorn stands with his back to us as the colossal Wraith looms overhead, blotting out the sky. This is the monster's Wraith. Kjorn stares up at the Wraith with wide, rattled eyes and asks the question that nobody has an answer to yet. Who in the world would do something like this? The monster's massive claw strikes down and Kjorn looks on. Kjorn is airborne, launched upward as the Wraith crashes down. As Kjorn dodges and escapes the monster's incoming attacks, his inner voice delivers the world-building gut punch. If the mana from a dead monster's corpse is not properly absorbed or dispersed, then the monster turns into a Wraith just like this. And any wizard who hunts monsters would absolutely know this rule. Kjorn drives downward through the sky like a missile, wind energy concentrated around him like a lance, aimed directly at the Wraith below with everything he has. And the question of who left that Wraith behind still burns like an ember. The conclusion crystallizes in full dramatic starburst. Whoever killed this monster was absolutely a wizard. So why? Kjorn demands to himself mid-combat. Did they leave its mana unabsorbed and let it become a Wraith? The second question hits even harder. Did they simply not know that an abandoned monster corpse turns into a Wraith if the mana isn't dealt with? And below it, Kjorn is already closing in on the beast again, golden energy crackling off him. The answer slams the door on that theory completely. No, a novice knight who didn't even know something that basic could not have possibly taken down a monster this powerful in the first place. As Kjorn is about to blast the monster with his Kamehameha, the final theory emerges in full. Then did they leave it as a Wraith on purpose, with some other intention entirely? Kjorn makes his decision, and it is the only one that matters right now. Either way, this thing has to be destroyed. Kjorn thrusts a lightning-wreathed blade straight into the Wraith's core with both hands, a column of golden energy tearing downward through the creature. This is the finishing move. The sword strike detonates across the entire panel in a blinding diagonal sweep of gold and white, the kind of blow that leaves a smoking crater. Kjorn pulls back wide-eyed and genuinely shaken as the worst possible realization hits. His magic was just nullified, and that can only mean one thing. This Wraith's mana is vastly stronger than his own. The Wraith vanishes into thin air and Kjorn stares at the empty space with one burning question. Did it just counter his magic with its own? Kjorn scans his surrounding with steel in his eyes and one word on his mind. Where did it go? The Wraith's dark liquid form bubbles and seeps across the ground right at Kjorn's feet as he looks around. The monster was underneath him the whole time. The Wraith erupts out of the ground in full, coiling and twisting with its many claws snapping as Kjorn stands tiny before it in the open field. And just then the monster strikes him down. Kjorn is sent flying as he tries to block the attack. Kiorn's arms is bloody and battered, but he is still grinning with pure fire in his eyes, declaring that this is not a level any regular knight can handle. At the very least, you would need to be a lower-ranking noble just to have a real chance against this thing. Kiorn is sent sliding backwards, blood flying, as the Wraith's claw connected. Kiorn hits the dirt, huffing hard, and admits something he never expected to say out loud, to think he would find a monster Wraith this powerful in some tiny mountain village. The Wraith stretches open its massive purple jaws wide against the open sky, tentacles coiling and its whole body pulsing. It is ready to finish this. Kiorn stands his ground with his back to us as the monster looms, and his inner voice lands like a death sentence. This is as far as he goes. As Kiorn breathes hard, he makes his decision. He is not going to die quietly. He bites down and throws everything he has left into one final move. If he goes down, he is taking this thing with him. Kiorn's hand blazes with golden fire as he focuses every last bit of mana he has into his palm. His plan is to stab it clean through the moment it lunges. The Wraith dives in from above, claws, tentacles, and fangs all coming down at once. And below it, Kiorn braces with fire blazing in his fist. With a blinding explosion of golden light, this is the moment of contact. Kiorn, tiny in the grip of the massive Wraith, golden light tearing outward from the point of impact as both of them collide in midair. Out of the darkness, a single point of bright blue light shines like a star, and the forest goes completely still. The monster is blasted back and pinned as Kiorn stands before it glowing, and from behind him, a blue energy disc is slicing clean through the monster's body. The blue beam tears through the Wraith as Kiorn watches it fall, wondering who the heck just saved his behind. The Wraith's massive body crumbles and dissolves in a cloud of dust as a tiny figure stands below it. Someone just killed the monster that was about to kill Kiorn. Out of the clearing fog, a single voice calls out softly, "Are you all right?" Kiorn stares at the figure before him with wide eyes, then catches himself with a wry inner thought. A shepherd's joke is pretty startling too. Turan walks ahead through the foggy clearing as Kiorn looks on. This boy came to save the old man. Kiorn asks the question hanging in the air with quiet, stunned eyes, "So you were a wizard this whole time?" Turan answers simply with just 2 words, eyes forward, "Yes, sir." And then Kiorn immediately follows with the next question, "Why didn't you tell me?" Kiorn changes the question entirely as he noticed Turan going completely silent. He then asks why he came to help when he didn't have to. Turan glances down to the side and starts his answer with one quiet word, "Because." Turan remembers when they were back at the cabin, he asked the wizard why he was going this. What does he mean? Turan's voice comes back cool and direct. He doesn't know what the village chief promised Kiorn, but with his level of skill, he could be making way more money somewhere much safer. Kiorn just laughs the question off. Kiorn then says it plainly, they are pitiful people. Turan asks what he means. Kiorn then explains that these people, living out on the edge of nowhere, shaking with fear, with no one to protect them, leaving Turan wonder why that's any of his problem. Kiorn explains that a wizard is, by the very nature of what they are, someone who was born carrying the power of a god. His belief is that drives everything he does. If that is true, then wizards should live with pride by protecting the people who have no power. He quickly adds that not every wizard thinks the way he does, and everyone has their own way of thinking, and their own way of living. With that memory, Turan looks up with a half grin. He tosses the question right back at Kiorn. Doesn't everyone have their own way of living? And just like that, the monster is back. It bursts out of the ground in a blinding flash as both Turan and Kiorn scramble into action. Kiorn snaps at Turan and yells for him, "Listen carefully. It is not a level they can handle together." He locks eyes with Turan and says it straight. "This is a monster that you cannot fight unless you are at least a noble-ranked wizard." He issues his order, "Go tell the village chief right now and get everyone out. He will hold the monster here." Kiorn plants his feet with golden fire blazing from his fist as the Wraith looms above him, its single massive green eye blazing open like a signal flare. Kiorn stands with fire in his hand and admits the truth out loud. He talked big, but he genuinely has no idea how long he can actually last. Kiorn's sharp eye cuts sideways as Turan say, "It's okay." He begins levitating a rock as he explains, if that last hit landed the way he thinks it did, they should be fine, and Kiorn fires back asking what on earth Turan is talking about. Kiorn stares with stunned eyes and wonders. Is he saying that attack was not even his full strength, and a young knight hiding in the mountains can hunt a wraith that even nobles have trouble with? Blue glowing boulders start floating in the air, spinning in a slow orbit. Turan stands with blue lightning crackling off both arms, rocks orbiting around him in a perfect storm. This is the shepherd wizard at full power, revealed at last. It is the beginning of a wizard who will turn the whole world upside down. Turan with his hair wild, eyes cool and certain, blue magic blazing all around him with a calm smirk. He says he was curious about his own limits. Turan is squaring up against a massive writhing wraith with a glowing green eye, and bro looks calm. Turan, rocks flying around him, hair whipping in the wind, drops the most unhinged casual line. I was curious about my limits too. Sir, you are fighting a wraith, not taking a personality quiz. Kiorn, arms lit with golden fire, screams that he won't let Turan fight alone, which is sweet, except Turan absolutely did not ask for permission. Kiorn is basically yelling the world's most stressed out pep talk. No matter how outstanding your talent, that thing is a tough opponent. We have to join forces, and the Wraith is just standing there, totally unbothered, judging everyone. Turan goes absolutely feral and launches a massive blue mana slash that tears up the ground, and the sound effects are so loud they're basically screaming at you personally. The slash hits the Wraith in an explosion of blue and white energy, and for a hot second you think it's over. It is not over. Kiorn, looking at his own glowing hand, clocks something painful. Right now, he literally cannot keep up with what Turan is doing. His hand looks powerful, but his vibe says deeply humbled. He stares at his feet crackling with fading golden energy and decides with quiet dignity that his job right now is not to fight but to do something smarter. The self-awareness arc has entered the chat. Turan unleashes a massive swirling figure 8 of pure blue mana energy and smashes it into the Wraith, and it literally does nothing. The Wraith just vibes. Our boy goes flying as the Wraith unleashes an attack. Kiorn, watching from the sideline like you and I, yells that you can't kill a Wraith with physical attacks. Turan with the Wraith charging at him asks, how the hell do I kill this thing then? Kiorn just says, with fire. That's it. No elaboration, no tutorial, just violence. He follows it up with, or lightning. Turan immediately complains it's not working, and Kiorn, with zero patience, fires back, that's not the point, because apparently there's a magical prerequisite called causality that Turan has never heard of in his life. Kiorn knows that to use magic on something, you need to establish proper cause and effect first, and he establishes that Turan, raised on a mountain with sheep, skipped that entire class. Kiorn, eyes go wide with the horrifying realization that Turan has literally never absorbed mana in his entire life. Not once, 0 times. And yet, he is here, doing this. The Wraith erupts in an explosion while Kiorn screams at the fleeing Turan. The key lesson, don't just ignite something outside yourself. Conjure the fire internally and launch it. Wizard physics just got complicated. Kiorn spiraling because Turan has never absorbed mana, doesn't know the rules, skipped all the basics, and is somehow still doing this at a crazy level. Turan takes the advice as he dodges the incoming attack from the Wraith, and in the very next beat, his hand is already spinning a small perfect orb of concentrated fire like he's been doing it for years. The natural talent is genuinely not fair. If you're a wizard, making fire shouldn't be difficult. Kiorn narrates the tutorial nobody asked for while Turan charges the Wraith with fire blooming from his hand. And yeah, okay, the fire part is easy for this dude specifically. Turan raises a full spinning fireball above his head like a trophy. Kiorn's brain completely melts, and the Wraith is basically about to catch these hands. Boom! Turan absolutely slaps the fireball straight into the Wraith's body at point-blank range, and the explosion is gorgeous and devastating in equal measure. The Wraith's iconic glowing green eye stares out from inside a massive wall of consuming orange fire. It is losing, and it is not happy about it. The Wraith writhes in the fire. Kiorn screams at Turan to stay focused, because if you let up even 1 second, the Wraith might just not die. Turan stands at the center of a blazing halo of fire like an absolute menace while Kiorn yells the full instructions, keep pouring mana in, don't stop, burn every last piece of this thing to nothing. Turan, sharp, locked in, completely unbothered. And yeah, this is the face of someone who is about to end a Wraith's entire career. The Wraith lets out what can only be described as an I am being permanently deleted scream as the fire consumes it completely. Absolutely cooked, zero chill. Kiorn, arms crossed, looking at the open blue sky, delivers the quietest, most earned 2 words of the chapter. We won. No celebration, just facts. Kiorn starts the debrief and clarifies that this wasn't just any monster. This was a noble class Wraith, the kind that takes years of experience to put down, and a shepherd boy just casually deleted it. Kiorn weighs of what just happened. Turan, a literal shepherd with 0 formal training, solo burned a Wraith that even he, a trained wizard, couldn't handle. Turan stands in the middle of the scorched Wraith carcass surrounded by smoldering debris and asks if it's actually done. Bro, you are standing inside the kill zone. It's definitely done. Kiorn can barely believe what he just witnessed, muttering, "A shepherd from the mountains did it," and then immediately pivots to practical advice. Go absorb the mana before another Wraith shows up. Thanks. Turan walks up to the glowing green remnants of the Wraith and reaches out his hand to absorb the mana, and Kiorn watches from a distance like a proud but also very confused father figure. Kiorn gives the world's most abstract how-to, just imagine draining it into yourself. And Turan without just goes, alright, and does it immediately because that's just who he is. As Turan absorbed the mana, Kiorn watches with a look that's somewhere between admiration and existential crisis, because Turan keeps doing things that should be impossible for someone with zero training. The Wraith's green ghostly energy starts flowing from its remains straight into Turan's hand. It's creepy, it's beautiful, and it confirms Turan just learned mana absorption in real time, mid-fight. Turan's eyes shift and glow a vivid, eerie green as the absorbed mana floods into him. The visual callback to the Wraith's own eye color is Chef's Kiss storytelling. Green energy crackles and tears off the Turan's body in crackling streaks as he pulls every last drop of mana out of it. This boy is literally vacuum sealing a ghost. Kiorn walks over and explains that absorbing mana for the first time usually feels good, actually. And Turan's glowing eye says, yeah, he felt it. The two of them stand together in the quiet aftermath of the battlefield, and Kiorn confesses out loud that even after watching it with his own eyes, he can't quite believe what he just saw, and that's saying something from a veteran. Kiorn asks the question directly, if that was his really first time absorbing mana. Turan confirms it with a single calm, yes, and Kiorn's entire worldview quietly crumbles behind his very composed expression. Kiorn drops the lore. Normally mana grows slowly with age after your first awakening, and the fastest way to level up is to absorb mana from monsters or other wizards. Basic stuff, but wild context for what Turan just did. Kiorn's eye narrows as the full picture clicks into place. Turan hit noble level output on his very first mana absorption. No practice, no ramp up, no tutorial, just immaculate talent and audacity. Which means this young man is... Kiorn thought to a dramatic conclusion mid-sentence. Kiorn calls to Turan to get his attention. Kiorn takes a real, genuine pause, then tells Turan straight to his face, "I've been very rude to you." And for a seasoned veteran to bow his head to a shepherd boy, that's character development right there. Kiorn gets formal and asks for Turan's noble lineage, and honestly, this is the moment where the power dynamic fully flips from grizzled mentor babysitting a kid to man realizing he's standing next to a VIP. Turan looks over to Kiorn and tells him that he's still bleeding. Back at the house, stares at his now covered, injured hand. Kiorn formally apologizes for how he treated Turan, because nothing says, "I respect you now," like a cozy sit-down after monster slaying. Turan, with the softest smile, waves off the flattery and reintroduces himself as simply a shepherd who doesn't even know who his father is. The casual way he delivers this existential fact is devastating. Turan's look goes sharp when Kiorn won't stop over-formalizing. The teal eyes say, "We just killed a ghost together, drop the honorifics," and Kiorn immediately backs down. But why would a powerful wizard be a shepherd? Kiorn asks the real question we've all been wondering for 4 chapters, and we get a wide shot of the humble pastoral sheep farm because yes, that is where this story lives. Turan explained that it was his mother's request, right up until the moment she died, and there it is, Turan's mother, on her deathbed, to stay a shepherd, and the way he says it without a shred of self-pity is absolutely heartbreaking and also extremely main character coded. Turan reveals, because the world below is full of people who would exploit a kid with his power, and mom, rest in peace, was playing chess. Kiorn quietly says his mom was wise. Past tense, no drama, and the Turan catches the word, because that's a lot of grief packed into 2 words and 0 tears. Turan is surprised as he thought Kiorn would have thought it her was being overprotective. Kiorn explains that wizards have great power, and great power inevitably brings conflict. Kiorn starts the lore dump with a truth bomb delivered with the weight of lived experience, and his face says he is not reading this from a book, he lived through it. 20-some years ago, the war between House Arabian and House Zahar, 2 great noble houses, clashed in fire and blood. House Arabian, Kiorn's house versus House Zahar, and it is not a happy story. Out of 3,000 knights, more than 900 died. Kiorn delivers the casualty numbers with a face carved from stone. Nearly a third of his entire house just gone, and his chin says he has been carrying this number every single day. Kiorn adds that everyone close to him was in that third that perished. Turan looks in disbelief. Turan listens in silence while Kiorn lists the people he lost. his best friend who wanted to open a laundry shop, his mentor who kept saying he still had so much to learn, his beloved wife and son. All were massacred by House Zahar and only he survived. What a gut punch. Ouch. Kiorn circles back to Turan's mom and essentially gives her the delayed W. She wasn't wrong for protecting him. Power really does bring tragedy, and this man is proof. He drops the reality check. Knights and nobles look powerful, but they can be cut down faster and more pointlessly than any ordinary person. War doesn't care about rank. Kiorn pivots. Mom was right about the danger, but wrong about hiding someone with Turan's level of raw talent, and Turan looks genuinely confused because he's never thought of himself as special. Kiorn leans in across the table with absolute conviction and lays it out. Even in his best days as a skilled knight, he couldn't touch what Turan just did, and he wants Turan to understand what that means. Kiorn says it plainly, no sugarcoating, that he couldn't take down the Wraith, a trained veteran, and a shepherd boy with zero experience just burned it to ash, and someone needs to say it out loud for it to be real. Kiorn delivers the verdict. Turan is not knight class, not even close. He's operating in an entirely different tier, and Kiorn knows it because he's seen enough power to calibrate. Kiorn adds, at minimum, you're noble level, and among them, at least upper tier noble aptitude, on his first mana absorption, with zero training. Someone please call the talent agency, because this man needs a contract immediately. Turan asks the most heartbreaking question so far. Did his mom lie about his dad being a knight, because a knight can't produce a son this powerful? And the look on his face says he's not angry, just genuinely lost. Kiorn explains the exception to the rule. It's rare, but bloodlines can surprise you, which means Turan's dad could absolutely have been a knight, and Turan this special, and the mystery deepens. Kiorn gets up, and with the quiet authority of someone who's lived 100 battles, tells Turan it's time. This mountain is too small for what he is. Turan asks why, and Kiorn explains that humanity is still in danger and needs people like Turan. Kiorn adds that there are ancient races, pushed out by the gods long ago, who are still lurking and watching for a chance to return. However, the noble houses keep fighting each other instead of watching the real threat. Kiorn walks to the door and asks Turan, "You aren't satisfied living as a shepherd, are you?" Kiorn doesn't even need a reply, because he already knows the answer, and so does Turan, even if he hasn't said it yet. Turan doesn't answer right away, he just sits there quietly, and this single still image says more than any speech could about a young man staring at the edge of his entire life. Turan finally asks what he could gain from doing this, genuinely curious, not afraid. Kiorn answers like a recruiter from the coolest guild ever. Wealth, fame, authority, family, friendship, all of it is down there waiting. Kiorn walks out and leaves Turan to sit in the quiet with the question, alone in the warm lamplight of his little shepherd house, and the weight of possibility fills every corner of that room. As Kiorn leaves, he lists the options. What if he can become leaving the small town? Monster hunter, wanderer, explorer, painting a picture of a life that sounds absolutely nothing like herding sheep and absolutely everything like what Turan was built for. Turan, looking out at the wide open sky from the barn, admits it with a soft smile. It would be more interesting than herding sheep here. Turan admits for the first time, he's seriously curious about the world outside. Kiorn, in a rare moment of doubt, worries he's hyped up a kid who might get crushed by the world. Kiorn realizing he forgot to ask the most basic question first, bloodline ability? And Turan just tilts his head because he has literally no idea what that means. Kiorn explains that bloodline abilities are divine inherited traits from ancient noble ancestors called the Freyans. It's basically what separates a regular wizard from a noble wizard, and that glowing golden heart image makes it look absolutely legendary. Nobles have bloodline traits, knights don't, and if Turan has one, it means his lineage might be way more noble than his mom ever let on. Kiorn prods for clues. What comes naturally? What feels effortless? Because bloodline powers often disguise themselves as just something you're weirdly good at. Turan lists his special abilities with complete sincerity, a good nose and strong rock throwing, and the knight's face says he is trying very hard to be professional right now. Kiorn explains, if your sense of smell is exceptionally good, you can consider it a bloodline ability. Okay, Kiorn takes the nose thing seriously. If it's truly extraordinary, it could be a genuine bloodline trait, which means Turan might literally have super smell as a noble power, and that's hilarious and also somehow cool. Kiorn drops the bombshell quietly. Exceptional thrown weapon skill is a trait of House Arabian. his own house, and Turan having it naturally is suspicious in the best possible way. Turan asks Kiorn to tell him more about the different traits and abilities. Kiorn agrees, but suddenly the energy changes. Kiorn goes oddly quiet and formal. Turan asked, "Sir?" It feels like something just clicked in Kiorn's brain, and Turan picks up on the energy shift immediately. Kiorn, quiet and heavy, says, "I think I know which abilities are closest to." Kiorn's expression drops into something serious and deep. He's doing the math, and the math is telling him something that clearly has history attached to it. Turan, curious, asks Kiorn, "Which house is that?" Kiorn coldly responds that it's a great house. Kiorn explains that it's a legendary house, the Hunters, known, feared, and apparently very relevant to whatever Turan is carrying in his blood. Turan belongs to House Zahar, the same house that massacred Kiorn's wife, son, and entire brotherhood, and suddenly the bloodline reveal is terrifying. House Zahar's war was with House Arabian, meaning Turan may carry the bloodline of the enemy house, and that cliffhanger has no business being this cinematic. Turan stares forward with those calm teal eyes, not panicking, not reacting dramatically, just absorbing the information the way he absorbs mana, completely and immediately, while the world around him catches fire. Our boy just found out his bloodline belongs to the most feared enemy house in the entire kingdom, and he is not spiraling, which is somehow more unsettling. "You're telling me I'm from the same bloodline as the Elder's enemies," Turan thought to himself. Turan's internal monologue is a whole law school debate with himself. Apologize? Don't apologize? While the Elder just stands there quietly, and honestly watching Turan wrestle with moral nuance is more interesting than most action sequences. The old knight just walks up and gives Turan a firm, quiet tap on the shoulder. No yelling, no judgment, no speech, just the most emotionally loaded shoulder tap. Kiorn doesn't hold any grudges as he knows Turan didn't participate in that war himself. The Elder breaks it down with the quiet wisdom of a man who has buried too many people. The cycle of vengeance stops somewhere, and the fact that he's saying this to the kid carrying enemy bloodline makes it hit completely different. The conversation shifts. Turan, brave enough or reckless enough, asks the Elder straight up if he regrets sending him into the world, and the two of them standing there makes the question feel as big as the landscape. The Elder lays out the prophecy of Turan's future with absolute clarity. Power will pull him towards Zahar, it's basically inevitable. But then follows it with, "I trust your character," and that single line of faith does more damage than any lore dump. The Elder actually floats the idea that Turan being inside House Zahar might be the peace route, using the enemy's bloodline as a weapon for good, and the sheer galaxy brain audacity of that plan is so this old knight's energy. Kiorn waves off the concern, telling him there's no need to think too seriously about it. After all, he hasn't decided right now whether or not to join the Zahar family. Turan states that his thoughts are clear now, he wants to try going down the mountain. The Elder says, "You've thought well." Highest possible praise from this man. And then Turan is like, "But I'm waiting for you to heal first." And the Elder, who definitely has multiple broken bones, says he's merely a bit scratched. Bro is built different. Kiorn explains that to use magic, one absolutely needs mana, which is why mana is commonly called the key to omnipotence. Training arc initiated. The Elder starts dropping Magic Theory 101 while Turan sits there absorbing it all, because of course the guy who never formally trained is now getting a crash course from one of the most experienced knights alive. The Elder lays out the 3 pillars of magic difficulty: bloodline, affinity, causality, like a man who has been waiting to teach this for years, and Turan is taking notes like a college student who actually cares about the material. The Elder uses himself as the example. Turan can't heal him, but a Ravista bloodline from South, they could do it in their sleep, which is both a good lesson and a very subtle reminder that the Elder is still injured and nobody's healed him yet. Turan leans forward with actual curiosity, asking about the second affinity, and the Elder casually defines it as familiarity. And watching this overpowered shepherd boy discover he has a system to his accidental magic skills is genuinely satisfying. Turan looks down thoughtfully as the concept clicks. You're better at magic you love, magic you know, and the implication that his entire childhood herding sheep might have been building his affinity this whole time. Turan's rock throw fireball from Chapter 4 gets explained in academic terms. He threw flames like a projectile because that's what his affinity understands. And when the Elder admits even he doesn't fully grasp causality, the Elder casually asks, "What if you tried to kill me with raw mana as a teaching exercise?" And Turan goes, "Probably a little light would come out of your head and that'd be it." Which is the most chaotic magic system explanation we've ever received. Kiorn explains, as he begins heating up a coffee cup, that this is exactly the phenomenon that occurs from a lack of causality. He continues as the coffee begins to bubble and heat up, explaining that this applies when there's no appropriate cause for a desired outcome, and when what needs to be achieved is excessively difficult. Turan puts it together with terrifying speed. You need to provide a cause, not just a wish. And the fact that his example of understanding causality is immediately phrased as, "if I wanted to kill you," is the most accidentally menacing student moment of all time. The elder is so impressed he says Turan could have been a scholar, highest academic compliment from a wizard. And then Turan breaks the moment by asking how come he can control ordinary animals but magical beasts requires much more, and Kiorn explains that it's because of mana. Turan remarks that magic isn't easy, to which Kiorn responds that an excellent mage knows not just how to use mana, but the principles and situations behind it as well. Turan soaks in everything and then, with the smoothest pivot imaginable, asks, "So what's the Zahar bloodline power actually?" Which is the most casually brave question about your own potentially terrifying heritage. Stealth and tracking, that's the Zahar power. And the elder immediately goes, "Try it." And Turan closes his eyes and starts wishing himself into invisibility with the focused confidence of a man who's somehow never failed at magic. Turan's face literally starts fading, light diffusing through him, smoke and shimmer where his features used to be, and it is creepy and beautiful and deeply unsettling in exactly the way a bloodline stealth power should look. The elder is left staring at the empty space where Turan used to be, while Turan asks if it worked. The elder confirms it, "You succeeded, I literally cannot see you." And Turan has just unlocked full invisibility on his first try, which is insane, which is on brand, which is exactly the kind of main character energy that makes everyone else feel bad about themselves. Turan materializes back into existence, light fracturing and reforming around his silhouette. And visually, this is one of the coolest power activations in the entire series, and it's a shepherd boy doing it. The elder calls it genuinely frightening. The Arabian Knights feared it most. Turan immediately goes, "This seems kinda OP," and the elder admits it's not invincible. Then pivots to teaching him more, and Turan's like, "Isn't this suspicious?" Kiorn is thankful that Turan saved his life and treated his wounds, so they're even. The elder looks at Turan with that quiet, weathered smile and just says, "And didn't I tell you?" Referring back to his trust in Turan's character. And this old man has decided Turan is good people. Full stop. Enemy bloodline be damned. The village chief absolutely losing his mind. "You're selling the sheep and leaving?" Because Turan announced his departure and also is offloading his entire flock, and this man's reaction is art. The village chief is in full crisis mode. Then who's going to do the shepherding? Just unlocked Zahar bloodline stealth magic and you are worried about the sheep. And honestly fair, someone does need to watch the sheep. Turan tells the villagers that they should figure out how to find a shepherd themselves, questioning how it matters to them what she does with her own belongings. He continues, saying he hopes they'll buy the sheep at a fair price, otherwise he'll release them all and leave. Turan is negotiating the sale of his sheep and tells the villagers they're free to capture them, but warns they'll probably have a hard time doing it. The village chief finally breaks. "Fine, do whatever you want." Because everyone in this village has learned by now that fighting Turan is like fighting the wind. Exhausting, pointless, and you'll end up with sheep loose in the street. Our boy is paid and he's out of there. Turan offers to collect the village's debt to Kiorn. Kiorn declines, he doesn't want their money. The duo reaches the end of the line. Kiorn decides it is time to part ways. He offers a polite apology for turning down the chance to keep traveling together. Apparently, he is just more comfortable flying solo, which is a classic "it's not you, it's me" move in the middle of a forest. Turan doesn't take the rejection personally, assuring him that it is not a problem at all. Gratitude flows as Turan thanks him for everything. With a weary but kind smile, Kiorn tells Turan to take care of himself. It is a wholesome moment of mutual respect, even if one of them is basically getting ghosted for a solo quest. Turan looks back with a soft, genuine expression, calling the man elder one last time. He expresses a sincere hope that when their paths eventually cross again, it will be with smiling faces. It is a top-tier departure, avoiding any awkward, "see you later" vibes by leaning into the sentimental, "until we meet again" energy. Turan remains rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on Kiorn's retreating figure as the distance between them grows. The forest path feels a lot emptier now, and the boy watches for a long time, perhaps realizing that the road ahead just got significantly quieter. Kiorn's long coat swishes with every step, marking the end of their brief partnership. A lingering realization begins to settle in as Turan stares into the distance. It takes time for the weight of their interaction to truly sink in, specifically regarding the old knight's behavior. Only later does he finally understand the reason why Kiorn refused to speak to him with formal honorifics. It is a bit of a late-game epiphany. But hey, better late than never when you are trying to decode the social cues of a legendary warrior. Affection from his mother was never something Turan lacked, yet the boy secretly spent his childhood yearning for a father figure. A simple life among the sheep and the rolling hills wasn't enough to fill that specific void. He needed a role model to look up to, someone who could show him exactly what kind of man he was supposed to become. Watching a mentor walk away into the distance serves as a silent reminder of the path he still has to climb. Dust skitters across the parched earth as the wind whistles through the jagged rock formations. The wasteland is a desolate stretch of nothingness, offering only the sound of the breeze for company. Turan trudges through the canyon, his boots crunching against the dry ground with every steady step. He pulls his hood tight against the biting wind, his silhouette a lonely dot against the vast reddish landscape. A sudden movement in the distance causes him to pause. Squinting through the haze, he wonders if the figures ahead are traveling merchants who move from village to village. This seems like a stroke of luck. Deciding it's a good opportunity to ask for directions, he closes the distance and comes to a halt before the group. A rugged man with a prominent eye patch immediately demands to know who Turan is to be blocking their path. Turan keeps it polite, explaining that he is traveling alone and simply wants to know the way to the nearest city. The man informs him that following the road they just came from will lead him to a city called Murray. Turan acknowledges the information, though a flicker of suspicion crosses his mind. Turan offers his thanks for the directions and turns to leave. But the heavy thud of a boot stops him in his tracks. The leader tells him to wait, effectively killing the polite atmosphere. The man looms over him, questioning if Turan really intended to just walk away after getting the information he needed. Turan is taken aback, asking what the man could possibly mean. Turan asks what else is expected, prompting the leader to explain the local rules of exchange. According to him, if a person receives something, they are obligated to give something in return. The sharp ring of steel echoes through the canyon as the group draws their swords. The leader orders Turan to take off that bulging bag of his first. Turan finally asks if they are bandits, and the man doesn't even bother to deny it, asking why that would even matter. The leader laughs, calling Turan's presence here pure recklessness. He points out that this is a wasteland where a random death wouldn't surprise anyone. He kindly suggests Turan hand over the bag and his cloak while they're still being nice, because actually killing him and stripping the corpse would be a lot of unnecessary work and a total mess. Turan realizes he's dealing with the worst kind of scum, bandits who don't hesitate to kill. Instead of backing down, Turan lets out a grin that is absolutely iconic. He decides that since these guys are so eager to help, he'll just have to use them for a bit of